here. As you just said, I represent State of Green, which is a public-private, not-for-profit partnership in Denmark, owned partly by the Danish government, partly by the 4 major business organizations. And we were actually set up in preparation for Denmark hosting COP15, the UN Climate Conference, in 2009. The idea being that over the past 30-40 years, Denmark has in many ways shown the way in the green transition, not only within energy, but also within water and the environment in general. We believe that we have a good story to pitch. We have a number of Danish companies who are very strong internationally, also and particularly in the water sector, companies that are truly committed to the UN global goals and most recently also obviously to goal number 6 of the UN Sustainable Development Goals on water. So you can say what we do is to share the Danish experience over the past 30-40 years, what kind of legislation has been formed in Denmark, what kind of regulations have been introduced, what kind of government initiatives, what kind of public-private partnerships are there. We host a number of public-private partnerships already between businesses in Denmark and the government in the water sector. And I think, without just to cut it short, the idea of creating this public awareness, as Matthew was mentioning before, has really shown to pay off in Denmark. We have had a constant focus on water consumption in Denmark, which means that we've been able to reduce consumption of water by almost 40% in Denmark over the past 30 years, and we are still one of the richest countries in the world. So it goes to show that you can actually, you can decouple your water consumption from economic growth.
Thank you very much. Thanks for those 4 presentations. I would like to throw a question to Matthew and Nihat about public-private partnership, and mainly what are the main challenges. I know that we were discussing before this about kind of translating. It seems to be a different state of mind. Could you both share your experience about what are the lessons that you've learned and how to make those very different people talk to each other?
From my perspective, I think the biggest challenge is trust. Different sectors are in competition, as we've seen. They've got their own vested interests, and often potentially coming from completely different agendas. So, building of relationships, the laying it on the table, the case from both perspectives, and talking and dialogue. And I think a big challenge behind it then is data, the availability of data, building the business case from the angle, and having a really informed debate on the differences with regard to policy. So robust analysis, evidence-based decision making. I think getting things like this on the table smooth the way and help dissolve some of the challenges that exist.
Data is definitely something that everybody around the table understands. So this availability would be your starting point. Maybe Finn, can you also?
On the need for trust, mutual trust is key to success. I also think that one of the lessons learned, at least in Denmark, is that you really need strong and high-level government action and intervention also. You need somebody to take the initiative. You need somebody who can explain it, how it's going to work. And I mean, if you put it into the perspective of the UN Climate Conference last year in Paris, which ended up in this vital agreement, I think this year in Marrakesh, it will all be about action. We need action now, and it only goes to show, I think, that now is the time for government officials, for local government officials to work out the plans, to enter partnerships with private companies, and to also include universities, for instance, in order to find the best solutions. And I think the initiative here in Dubai on the Sukia is absolutely great, trying to put together people from around the world to come up with the best innovative solutions in close partnerships.
Okay, thank you for this transition. It helps me to move to Mohammed. And so what is the partnership model that you have built in order to tackle this issue about water scarcity with Sukia?
Now, just following up and elaborating further to my colleagues here, partnership is key. For us, for example, we just started almost a year and a half ago. Now, we have different mandates. One of them is research and development. The other is providing water for people in need globally. Now, as a new entity to start from scratch, that would be very challenging for us. Luckily, we partner with different organizations. One of them for the charity work is Mohammed bin Rashid Charity. They are under the same umbrella, which is Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum Global Initiatives. Just to give a brief about this initiative, it has more than 30 entities focusing on 4 different pillars. The first pillar is combating poverty and disease. The second pillar is spreading knowledge. The third pillar is empowering communities. And the third pillar is to focus in innovation, entrepreneurship, and the future, of course. Now, since we're under the same umbrella and Mohammed bin Rashid Charity has been doing charity work for decades now, we signed an MOU with them to execute water-related projects globally, and the model is working fine. Specifically in this partnership, we have more than 100,000 beneficiaries. Now, talking about research and development, we used a strong government entity. Of course, we have the blessing of His Excellency Said Tayer. He's chairing UAE Water Aid Foundation, and he's also MD and CEO of Dubai Electricity and Water Authority. Now, since our mandate is focusing on providing water using solar energy, DEWA or Dubai Electricity and Water Authority are very strong in the desalination aspect. Moreover, they're one of the leaders in the region for providing solar power to Dubai, of course. So this model made it easier for us to get into the game easily. And since the cause is similar and everyone is participating in different strategies, for us it would be the good cause of providing people in need. Why not get the support from the expertise and sharing knowledge, as my colleague said, to do it in a better way, of course.
Thank you. So after this first aspect of the discussion, which was focused about partnership, I would like to move on to the responsible management of the water. And Liad, I found that empowering people is an important aspect, especially when you talk to rural communities and about agriculture. You were talking to me about this kind of silent revolution and about the challenge about groundwater management. How do you see the balance between empowering people and allowing them to grow agriculture and at the same time making sure the resource is preserved? How do you see this dilemma?
Well, I mean, let me start by reflecting a little bit, one minute on my colleagues and you know, the Sustainable Development Goals, the 17 of them have been adopted in 2015 in September. And one of them is related to water resources, but all of them cuts across the water sector, and the water sector cuts across all the others. And the challenge is that no one single government can implement these sustainable development goals alone. Mm-hmm. No one entity can do so. So the means of implementation is very important, and for that the private sector has a major role to play. And partnerships, Goal 17, is in fact talking about how we can deliver all together, which includes, of course, local communities, which includes farmers, which includes people, you know, using and utilizing the water resources and impacting it. Since the 70s, in a number of countries around the world, there has been what they are calling the silent revolution, a revolution that talks about the efficient use of groundwater resources, because the groundwater resources all over the world are facing tremendous scarcity and impact. So farmers themselves have realized that once they have increased the efficiency of their use of water, they increase the efficiency of production, they increase their income to their own societies, and therefore they increase their socioeconomic livelihoods. So why it has been silent? Because it has been away from working with the governments. It was started by the local communities. The local communities have taken the initiative. Of course, the local communities also represent the private sector and other entities. So they've realized that, the efficient use and putting, in fact, science to support their work and support their agricultural practices will enable them to, of course, increase their yield and utilization. As my colleagues said, data is very important, and it was important for the local farmers to know what to crop, when to crop, how to crop, and so on. Okay. So science and knowledge and innovation and increasing the efficiency is very important to tackle the issue of scarcity and make the limited water resources available for a higher number of people, and increases the production of agricultural resources.
So education as a key aspect, which was also the point of view of FIN, of raising awareness. So some kind of public awareness campaign that has been made in Denmark. I recall that you was mentioning a few tools in order to raise awareness and to make the water management more efficient at the domestic level.
Yeah, I didn't get the first part of your question.
So it was about raising public awareness
Yes.
to the public,
Yeah.
and whether there has been some tools or some things implemented in Denmark.
There have been a number, in terms of the general public, there have been multiple public awareness campaigns over the years. You can enter a Danish kindergarten today, and the 3-year-old kids will know that water is a scarce resource, and they will teach each other to close off the tap if somebody forgets. If you look at the industrial side, some of the and one of the most commonly used tools has been taxation. We probably have the highest water price in Denmark in the world, one of the highest, if not the highest, I think it actually is, simply because it has been a decision by Danish Parliament way back to the late 70s that the price of water should reflect the true cost of water, from getting it up from the ground, taking it, cleaning it, taking it to the consumer, taking it back and cleaning it again. Yes. So the fact is that Danish consumers actually pay a very high price for water today, which makes it obvious that you save water wherever you can. And that goes also for manufacturers, obviously. For instance, the brewery industry, the slaughterhouses, etc. They have become very good at
and from the testing, we would understand further what challenges we may face to develop those technologies further.
Yes, and
if I could just add one thing to what I just said, we also try to facilitate the production of white papers showcasing actually the best solutions. So if you enter our website, www.stateofgreen.com, you will find a number of white papers on water management, water leakage, etc., where you have concrete cases from around the world which have actually been proven to show some very good results in a very short time.
Giving exposure to those people.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
So I think it's now time for the 10-minute questions, I believe. So I would leave the ground to the audience.
Can you hear me? No.
Let's talk about water is making us thirsty.
Well, my voice is enough to speak without a mic. I'm during two capacities. I'm a focal point for Ukraine for Article 6 of the UNFCCC. And in this respect, I would like to draw your attention to the fact that last year the world contest on the video, on the amateur video for climate change, addressing the climate change, was landslidingly won by the girl from Nepal, showing the perils that ladies have to overcome by coming 3 miles more for water.
Yeah.
And steeper into the, and it was, like 78% of boats went for that route out of 300. So that is, if not the manifestation of the importance of what we are discussing today. So thank you for this wonderful panel.
Thank you.
And on the other hand, I'm member of the supervisory board of Our Living Foundation. Livit is the urban river in my capital, Kiev, a city of 5 million people. It was encased in concrete in 1935, and since then it was just a smelling dump. What we did, the three of us at the very beginning, myself and two businessmen, who had the businesses on the banks of this so-called river at the time. So we started with cleaning the riverbed, taking 420 truckloads of filth from only 2.5 kilometers length of the river. Then now we are 100 plus enthusiasts. We are 100 plus enthusiasts doing the green patrols, closing the unauthorized leakages, doing some public awareness campaigns. We are establishing the water thematic park on the banks of the river, and we are trying, and we will make the river a pillar of a new 21st, even 22nd century habitat for the people who live by its banks, and the river goes through the very heart of the city. So what we need, and I am here for this particular panel, coming all the way, like covering 6,000 miles. I hear what Finn said and what the representative of UAE said, exactly what I wanted to hear. We need some help in designing best solutions for this problem. Not so much for co-financing, okay, but to show the people that we are the strength that can bring the river to its natural state. And we are now being given all the support from the municipal powers, so everybody has awakened to the problem. And just one more thing, the river, being the tributary to the Dnieper, which is the third largest river in Ukraine, in Europe, was 3 times as pollutant as the maximum pollutant of any other river in Ukraine. So urban rivers need much more attention than they are deserving now. Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks.
Do we have any more questions?
Yeah, my question was, can we look into some kind of...
We don't have any urban rivers, not very big ones, at least in Denmark. But I would mention one case, namely the inner harbor of Copenhagen. If you go back 15 years, the inner harbor of Copenhagen, on the front, there were a number of very polluting companies. The harbor water was in a very bad state. The municipality of Copenhagen decided to start a project like you did, except that this was a city, you were a private person, but the city started a project cleaning up the harbor, doing it together with the central government, trying to make it a more attractive place. It was a place you wouldn't walk there in the evening, for instance. It was desolate in many ways. Now, if you visit Copenhagen today, you will see that the inner harbor is a major tourist attraction. And we're talking about a stretch of the canal system, which is a few hundred meters away from the city hall. In the summertime, hundreds of thousands of people will flock there. They will swim in the canals. If you look at property prices, they have gone up, even though we've had a financial crisis in Denmark. It's very attractive to live in that area. So, in my opinion, it goes to show that if you have some action taken by individuals or by local governments, and you can finance it and find the money and the people who will support you, then you can actually create some very, very sustainable cities where people will want to live and move to, which is, I think, a major advantage. And obviously, I would like to share some of the experiences from Copenhagen with you.
Can I just add as well, I was actually in Kiev 2 weeks ago talking about the rivers in Ukraine as a whole and their impact on each other and the opportunities that exist to clean up, both in terms of within Ukraine and neighbouring countries as well. And it's astonishing the impact of polluting a river, the knock-on effects to downstream agriculture, tourism. It's phenomenal, and we're trying to set up exactly what I presented there, a national policy dialogue within Ukraine to get NGOs, government bodies, decision makers, public, private sector, academia, all talking about these issues. So hopefully there's some good news coming.
Okay, so we're about to wrap up our session. If nobody has any questions, I would like to ask our panelists, if you had to give us one take-home message today about how cross-sector partnerships are going to address the water scarcity problem, what is it that you want to say? What is it that we need to remember today from this session?
So if I had to pick one word, which was not from me, but I have to agree, is about trust. I think for those social challenge, we need to build trust between entities. We cannot ask to a government to commit to long-term with a private company without knowing it. So you need time. This is time to build the trust. So I think this is really the foundation of those PPP, to have trust between each body.
If I may add a point as well, about the government involvement, the private sector, the collaboration of them all, building capacity, involvement in the Denmark example of the kindergarten students, all of that and setting up the proper platform for them all would definitely achieve the targets, or let's say raise awareness.
From my part, I would say change starts with oneself. When I talk to ministers of environment or agriculture, they blame each other that they don't integrate with us, they don't work with us. So if you want an integrated approach to water resources management, you have to be proactive and start by reaching out to everybody, because you cannot do it by just waiting and for people to come and work with you. So start yourself.
And I totally agree with that. And just building on that point, I would say supporting those discussions with the data and analysis, so everybody knows exactly what they're talking about, and business cases can be built up and presented to government, presented to decision makers to help them make informed choices.
Yeah, I fully concur with what you've said so far. My only point I would add would be that I think in coming years it's extremely important that people act locally, that you, in your own community, try and create awareness about the issues you have. It may be within the environment, it may be within water, maybe within energy, but let it start and let it grow from the local level.
Thank you
very
you.
much.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, actually, thank you very much for taking part of this very interesting session. Yes, I'm at the back and been listening to you quietly and discreetly to surprise you now. It is quite interesting, and it's nice to see this crowd that is, more quality, less quantity, perhaps I should say, which is a good option at this point. I would like to invite Mr. Mohammed Al-Shamsi from DIWA to give you a small token of appreciation for taking part of the session in Wges. Ladies, if you can pass on the trophy, and he could pass it around for a group picture. And thank you again, once again, thank you.
Thank you very much.
No, I think we give it. I think that's it. Thank you very much. Thanks. Yeah.
There's a problem. I will be talking.